Can you see the what it says pawn structure?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll learn about that today.
Yeah.
Okay. So can everyone guess what pawn structure is?
The
So
structure of pawns.
yeah, exactly. It's a structure of how pawns are in for either you or your opponent, okay, or the general board, okay. So pawn structures are how pawns, like the pawns are. So uh, again, you want to have good pawn structure just because that can say how good your pawns are. So let's just first start with this position. Okay, double pawns are bad. Okay, so what's a double pawn? Double pawn. This is a triple pawn, but
Pawn on top of the pawn.
yeah, it's a pawn on top of a pawn in a file or column. Okay, so let's look at the reasons why they're not good. So they're weak and not defended well. Okay, so why are they not defended well? So pawns only defend from like diagonally, right? So these three pawns are actually not defending each other at all. So they're all easy to take. Okay.
Yeah.
So does everyone see that? So let's look at in this case, the key if when the king comes up, the king can just eat all three pawns, and it's really easy to do, right? So next, easily blocked. Okay, so same thing. If there was some piece here, like say a knight, all three of these pawns are now useless. They just can't move up, right? So does everyone see that? So if the king was just here where my mouse is,
Yeah.
none of these pawns can move up, right? So that's fairly easy to understand, right? So the pawns, so it's kind of the follow up to the second thing, is that pawns behind the first one can't move either, right? So these two pawns can't move unless this pawn moves, right? So it takes a lot of time to get everything moving. Okay. So does everyone understand that? Just give me like a thumbs up or a yes or a no or something. Or does anyone have any questions? Okay, no questions. Everyone understands. Okay, good. Okay. So yeah, so try to avoid pawn structures in the game. So if you can avoid double pawns, avoid them. Okay. So remember this: don't get double pawns. It's very important. Probably the most important thing in the entire lesson. Okay. Okay. Isolated pawns are bad. Okay. So this is an isolated pawn. Isolated pawn is when there's no other pawns next to it. So in this case, there's no pawn next to the d4. There's no pawn next to that. So it's an isolated pawn. In fact, all the pawns on the chessboard are isolated. So does everyone see that? So easily attacked and can't be defended by other pawns. Okay, so that's the main problem. They can't be protected by another pawn, and obviously pawns are the best defense of another pawn. So that makes them really easily attackable. Okay, and you can often use this in your games to win free pawns. Okay. Two is that they can be blocked since there are no pawns next to them to remove it. So this knight cannot be moved unless the king comes up and moves it. This pawn isn't going anywhere, okay? At least for right now, okay? And next is that for blocking the pawns, knights are the best, okay? Does everyone understand this?
Yes.
Okay, so when your opponent has an isolated pawn, one way you can take advantage of this and get free pawns is to have a bunch of rooks attacking this pawn. Okay, and rooks are the best, but not just rooks. You can obviously use other pieces like knights, bishops, all other pieces. But if you have a like double rooks here, like if you have you have a rook here, and there's no knight, we can see this, right? So black is attacking these two pawns, and since there's no pawn to protect this other pawn, white has no choice but to also use all their pieces to defend this pawn. Okay, so let's ask a question. So what's black's best move here? Cow flipboard, I guess. So what's black's best move here?
Eating the. Uh,
So you can't eat the pawn, right? Because just eat, then eats. Okay, so I'll just do it. And eats, and then so you can't do that. Okay, so I'll give the answer. Okay. In this case, it's actually moving here, right? So it's actually a pin, right, on on this rook. So if this moves, you can just take it free, right? So that's it.